You know Graybar for electrical parts, but there's one more thing you may not be thinking of us for that can help maximize your next project's total value. Our pre-project planning services are designed to help you win the bid, save on labor costs, and keep your installers productive across your entire build. The sooner you call us, the better. Because when we're there from the beginning, we can anticipate your needs and help you solve problems before they become problems. Yep, Graybar does that.
The latest edition of the Show Before the Show podcast on a Thursday afternoon. We are recording for you July 28th. The final full month of the minor league season is nearly at hand. My name is Tyler Mon, Sam Dykstra, and Benjamin Hill as well with us today. I was going to say both in their respective locales, which I guess is technically not inaccurate, but Ben's not in his normal locale. He's in the state of Oklahoma and joins us from the road. What's going on, guys?
Yeah, I'm here in Brooklyn in my normal place. Ben is the one.
You're in aluminum foil city.
Aluminum foil city. That's what they call my apartment, and by they I mean you exclusively, Tyler. That's. I've had visitors to this apartment who would call it, Sam's place, but no, aluminum foil city.
Nope, sorry.
That's not. But Ben, how's Tulsa looking?
It's looking all right. Been here for several hours now. I'm in a hotel room right now. There's a parking garage visible out the window. But prior to that, I was poking around the area around the ballpark, One Oak Field. It's in the Greenwood district, the Tulsa neighborhood. That was the site in 1921 of the worst race riots in American history. So there's a lot of history in that neighborhood, a lot to process. I'm not saying I processed it fully, but I remember being here 10 years ago in 2012 and learning about that Greenwood massacre for the first time. And fortunately, in the ensuing decade, it's become more of a well-known event, more established, mainstream part of American history. But it is interesting to have this AA ballpark in the midst of that neighborhood, Black Wall Street, where there were hundreds of Black-owned businesses, and they were destroyed essentially in one day and one night during a race riot. So an interesting place to be in that regard. Tulsa, I'd not been there for 10 years, and I spent the last 2 nights prior to coming to Tulsa in Oklahoma City. So I'm in Oklahoma, broadly speaking.
And you got there, you kicked things off in Oklahoma City, and now being in Tulsa. And, as you said, things change a lot. You've also got Wichita on the docket for this trip, but take us through kind of the early impressions. Obviously, Tulsa, as you noted, the ballpark is a gorgeous place in the heart of a very historic neighborhood in not only the Tulsa community, but the Black community in that area as well. And there are some really cool things that kind of anchor it to that community. I know they've got that really cool Jackie Robinson mural that's there now. And they paid homage to the T-Town Clowns, who were a semi-pro Black baseball team in Tulsa in the early part of the 20th century. But tell us about what else you've been doing in OKC and now in Tulsa.
Yeah, well, I started in Oklahoma City and had been 10 years since I saw a game there at Chickasaw Bricktown Ballpark. So overdue for visit per usual. In promoting this trip and in my newsletter and whatnot, I said it had been since 2011 that I'd last been there because it's hard to keep track of dates. But I was talking to Oklahoma City Dodgers announcer Alex Friedman yesterday, and he said his first year with the team was 2012. And I was like, well, you were here when I was here. And he says, yeah, that's because you came here in 2012. So it had been 10 years ago, not 11 years ago, but good to see Alex. Good to see that ballpark again. I mean, it's called Bricktown Ballpark, and it's in, the Bricktown district of Oklahoma City. And that name is not a misnomer. There's a lot of bricks around that area. It's a former warehouse district. And that ballpark, was one of the anchors for, transforming it into what it is now with a lot of restaurants, shops, bars, hotels, all sorts of things going on in that general area. And so this is a big AAA ballpark, the kind they just don't make anymore. There's that kind of class of AAA ballpark with the two levels of seating and capacity up in whatever 13, 14, 15,000 range. At the ballpark, their second level of seats on the first base side of the stadium is just tarped off completely because it's such a big ballpark. But they've added some cool group areas since I've been there last. Beer garden, kind of home run porch bar gathering area in left field. A new club level on the second level. This is a ballpark with a lot of room to move and, a pretty scenic locale overall, just being in the heart of Bricktown and, surrounded by large buildings, a lot of brick buildings, a lot of hotels. It's really in the thick of things in that regard. So got to spend 2 nights there. My first night was, I traveled that day and didn't want to say for sure that I'd be there that day, just given the vagaries of, airline travel these days. So I spent a lot of time on Tuesday getting the lay of the land, wandering around. But then yesterday was a whirlwind for sure. I was at the ballpark from about 3:30 till about 10:30, just talking to all sorts of people, pursuing all sorts of different stories. One addition to the ballpark that was not there the last time I was there is the Oklahoma Sports Hall of Fame / Jim Thorpe Museum is now on the grounds of the ballpark. So I got to visit there, talk to the curator for quite a bit and, learn about Oklahoma sports history. But that was a really interesting, it's in the ballpark itself. It's a separate entity. It used to be a restaurant. And, so now there's that Hall of Fame. So definitely if you're coming to see the Oklahoma City Dodgers at Chickasaw Bricktown Ballpark, I would make time to visit that Hall of Fame. And then certainly talking about Tulsa, I would make time if you're going to see the Tulsa Drillers to really explore the larger Greenwood district as well, because, there's a lot going on around there and a lot of history. So yeah, good to be back in Oklahoma. And last night, I don't, when I get in touch with teams, I don't say, hey, put me in between inning contests and X, Y, and Z. But, if I'm asked, I do it. And last night, I haven't put this on social media, but I participated, or yet I will, but I participated in an impossible challenge where you had to eat 6 crackers in under a minute. And, the team got gluten-free crackers for me, because I have celiac disease. And everyone was saying that I can come closer to finishing this impossible challenge of eating 6 crackers than anyone they'd ever seen. I was kind of a ballpark star in that regard. And part of me wants to just, give myself a lot of credit because I'm good at impossible challenges. I pulled off a lot of, insanely improbable things in my long and illustrious career. But then I couldn't help, the self-critical side came in and I said, well, they gave me gluten-free crackers and maybe those are easier to eat than the normal crackers that people usually eat. Maybe if I had actually completed the challenge, which I almost did, I just couldn't fully swallow everything by the end of the minute. I think there would have been asterisk on that because I had, gluten-free crackers. I don't know. I was thinking about it a lot last night, but at the end of the day, I tried my best.
I was gonna say, what is there you could do with this skill apparently that you didn't know you had?
Go on the road. I mean, I'm on the road now, but go on the road in a different context,
Yeah.
like a traveling.
Ben eat crackers.
Yeah, just like they used to do it with the old barnstorming teams. I just roll down a town's main street, ride like a big old-fashioned bicycle, have a banner flying behind me like this man eats 6 crackers in a minute without a drink of water, and then charge a mission, set up a little tent, and make some cash, and then move on to the next town. That's an American life.
Yeah, there you go. Well,
This is like a Coen Brothers plot come to life.
One thing I wanted to ask about, Ben, is you mentioned last time you were in OKC was 2012. In 2012, the team there was known as the Red Hawks.
Yes, I wanted
the Dodgers. And there's a little bit of a Dodgers theme to your trip now being in Tulsa. You're going from their AAA affiliate to their AA affiliate. If you didn't know anything about minor league baseball, that might be a little surprising to folks learning about the LA system that their top 2 affiliates are in Oklahoma. What kind of Dodgers influence is there on these 2 teams? Because normally at those 2 levels, you're trying to get somewhere close to the parent club. You're trying to get people excited for guys who are going to be playing potentially just down the road. Obviously, they have farther to go from Oklahoma City to LA. So what is just the Dodgers vibe in OKC and Tulsa?
Yeah, well, in Oklahoma City, it's quite pronounced. I mean, the team is named the Dodgers. When they were the Red Hawks, they had been a Rangers affiliate for a long time. I think the Astros for a little bit. But when they became the Oklahoma City Dodgers, that wasn't just an affiliation. That was members of the Dodgers ownership group buying the team. Hence the Oklahoma City team, not just having the affiliation, but being named the Dodgers. So, I mean, it's just right up front and center with the branding all over the ballpark, Dodger blue, the LA logos. And while I'm not in general a huge fan of, a parent of a minor league team having its parent club for a name, I mean, there is that natural tie-in, at least aesthetically, that Oklahoma, OK, LA, it just lends itself really well to LA Dodgers imagery throughout the ballpark, to have the LA and Oklahoma also stand for the LA in the Dodgers. So the OKLA kind of goes a long way in really selling it and solidifying the overall look. I'm not sure how many Dodgers fans are in Oklahoma City who are like, yes, now I get to see my favorite team. But I'm sure there's there's people who now follow the Dodgers a lot more closely because AAA is Oklahoma City, and and it looks good all around. The branding does look good all around. I think that was 2016, I want to say, that they became the Dodgers. And so it is a kind of funny thing. I mean, the Dodger system starts in Midland, Michigan with the Great Lakes Loons, then goes real close to LA with the Rancho Cucamonga Quakes, then goes for 2 stops in Oklahoma, Tulsa, where I am right now, and Oklahoma City at AAA. So it's definitely kind of an interesting system in the way it's spread out. But to hit Dodgers double in AAA within about an hour and a half drive of each other in the state of Oklahoma might not sound like an intuitive thing, but it is good for fans of the team who are in Oklahoma, and also obviously from a logistical level within a spread out system, at least to have those 2 teams close to each other to shuttle back and forth between Tulsa and Oklahoma City.
Yeah, not to correct you too quick, but just now with the changes, Rancho is where they start, because Rancho is now single A.
Oh, you are correct. Of course. Sam is always correct. Yeah.
But still, it's interesting that they start close and go out and then kind of circle back.
That's right. Right. So they start in Rancho at not low A, at single A. My goodness, that's so much to keep track of in minor league baseball. Then you're right. High A in Midland, Michigan, then Oklahoma, then back to Los Angeles.
There is a lot. And Ben, you are next up going to a place that has not been a member of the affiliated ranks of minor league baseball for too long, in a city that was formerly a member of the affiliated ranks until their former franchise, the Wichita Wranglers, moved. But you get a chance to check out the Wind Surge and their very young ballpark. And what are you most excited for Wichita?
Yeah, I mean, I think I've mentioned this before on the podcast, but I'm always happy to repeat it. But, this is me for the 3rd time, completing the affiliated minor league baseball landscape in my travels. Wichita is currently the only ballpark that I've yet to have visited. So that's the number one thing I'm excited about is if there's 120 teams, 119 ballparks, as we all know, because Jupiter and Palm Beach share a ballpark down there in Florida. But of the 119 ballparks, I've currently been to 118, most of them multiple times. And then Wichita will be finally getting to the only one I need to go to. That ballpark, Riverfront Stadium, was supposed to open in 2020 with the team as the AAA Miami affiliate. Then with all the changes to the minor league landscape, they never played a game at AAA during the 2020 season that wasn't. And then with the restructuring of the landscape, they became AA. Twins. So they're in Kansas, AA Minnesota affiliate, the Wichita Wind Surge. So, I'm excited to go there. I've heard good things about the ballpark. Looking forward to exploring the general area, maybe getting a little more context about why they have a team called an alternate identity called the Turbo Tubs with a troll logo. I've tried to explain it in the past, but there's a troll statue that I want to check out, and he's like imprisoned under a grate. So I want to check that out, and and just see the ballpark. And there's a lot of art, a lot of murals around it. So I'll just see what I see. But it's nice to go to someplace new. And there were a lot of new ballparks in the landscape in 2021, with all the ballparks that were supposed to open in 2020, with ones that then did open on as scheduled in 2021, and then a former Indy ballparks coming to the affiliated ranks. There's been a lot to get caught up on, and happy to finally see Wichita and then say hashtag Ben everywhere once again. It's a good feeling to hit that milestone. And where do I go from here? I don't know. I think I'll just take long naps in hotel rooms as a career because that's really my favorite thing to do.
Have you asked the wind surge to do anything special for you upon entering the ballpark?
I have not. I don't make those sort of requests usually. When I did complete the entire circuit for the first time, which took me the better part of a decade, that was in Grand Junction, Colorado in 2018. So that one definitely had a little more hoopla around it, at least in my own mind. And the team did give me a jersey with the number 1 on it, I guess showing they were the last. I completed the travels in Grand Junction. So that one was like, whoa, I did it. I didn't even know what I was doing in this job. And now I've been to every ballpark. It doesn't feel as, special now that I'm just kind of playing catch up. But you're right, though. I won't be there till tomorrow. I'm going to shoot off an email or two and say, hey, activate that red carpet. Ben's Biz coming through.
Activate the red carpet, Wichita. Benjamin Hill is on Twitter at Ben's Biz. On Instagram, you can find him at the Ben's Biz. And of course, you can read all of his stuff at MILB.com and enjoy the rest of the trip, man. Can't wait to hear about Wichita. The ballpark looks so cool, and we'll chat with you about it next week.
Yeah, looking forward to it. I have a lot more to say about Tulsa, and then of course, Wichita, and then much more beyond that. It's a busy time of year, and looking forward to processing it all with you guys. No 2 guys I'd rather process with.
Thanks, Ben.
Thanks, guys.
It's hot stove season across baseball, and as we continue along in this week's episode of the show before the show, we are able to talk about one deal and maybe a whole bunch of other deals where there are a million things to discuss, and maybe none of them will actually happen. Let's talk about the first one first, Sam, which is last night, the New York Yankees acquired Andrew Benintendi from the Kansas City Royals and sent a trio of prospects back to the Royals. 2 of them ranked in the Royals top 30 now, the third not. Give us the lowdown on the prospects and went the other way in the Benintendi deal.
Yeah, I mean, this was one of the interesting trades because it always felt like the Royals were going to be sellers at this year's deadline. Benintendi, one of the big things was we found out when the Royals played in Toronto that he is not vaccinated. So was the team going to be interested in trying to acquire him, especially in the AL, team that could play Toronto in the playoffs? Turns out the Yankees were, and the Yankees play in the AL East, same division as the Jays, so we're going to have to keep an eye out on that. But the Royals decided to get 3 prospects back: Beck Way, TJ Sikkema, and Chandler Champlain. All pitching prospects, which I find interesting because I think if you look at the top of the Royal system right now, it's loaded up with position players. Vinny Pasquantino and Nick Pratto are their top 2 prospects overall. Nick Lofton is not that far behind them, and also Michael Massey, is become one of their best prospects as well as another hitter. But it seemed like they were still more loaded on the pitching side than on the hitting side. So they acquire pitching depth here, furthering their depth in the minor league system. Of the 3 that they acquired, I think Beckway is probably the best prospect, the 22-year-old at high A right now. Good fastball, a good slider. There are some serious control concerns coming into this year. He seems to have ironed out at least some of those. Feels like the most likely of the group to be a potential starting pitcher someday. Sikkema hadn't pitched in either of the last 2 seasons, one because of the pandemic and another because of injuries. He's finally getting back up to speed now. He's got 36 1/3 innings at Hudson Valley. Was actually the better prospect of the 3 coming into the year, but he just turned 24 in July. He still hasn't pitched above high A ball. That's why Beckway kind of passes him on the chart. And Champlain was a 9th-round pick out of USC last year. So the entire industry had an opportunity to draft him, fell all the way to the 9th round to the Yankees, and was showing really good stuff, I think, at Single-A Tampa before this deal. That's why the Royals picked him up. Right-hander, 23 years old. So, again, pretty old, especially old for the Single-A level. But he's one of those spin kings. His slider's really good. His curveball shows really good metrics. He didn't throw it nearly as much as the slider in the Florida State League, which makes me question the pitch a little bit. But again, some really good spin on that. It's more of a 12-6 offering the slider, 2 plane break on that one. He touched as high as 98 earlier in the spring. has lost his velocity as the season has gone along, but he's pretty big at 6'5". There's some belief that as he ages, as he matures, as he gets deeper into his pro career, that size will allow him to maintain that velo deeper into a season, so he can consistently hit mid-90s. He's a little bit more of a wild card. But when you look at what the Royals got here for essentially a rental of Andrew Benintendi, who is a good hitter, a pretty good fielder, won a Gold Glove last year, but they're only getting not even half a season out of him, and they got 3 pitching prospects. If one of those guys becomes a number 4, number 5 type starter eventually, which is probably the ceiling for all 3, for a rental of Andrew Benintendi, that's pretty good. When you get 3 of those guys and you increase your odds, all right, that's pretty good as well. It didn't have necessarily the big name that I thought Benintendi could have gotten back, or at least bigger name. But again, if you increase your odds of getting a decent piece out of this, that's not a bad strategy either. And the Royals clearly went for depth here over, a big shiny name.
Well, we are coming up on the Major League trade deadline here in 2022. And of course, there have been so many discussions as to maybe big names moving, some places more likely than others, I suppose. But obviously, the August 2nd deadline coming up puts a whole bunch of players in play that could bring huge hauls back. The first one that we have already discussed a little bit, but one that I think we'll be discussing until and probably after the deadline comes and goes, is Juan Soto. Do you think that the Nationals are any more likely to deal Juan Soto at this time, this week, with the deadline only 4 or 5 days away than they were last week? If so, why or why not? This is a deal that I think we were both last week kind of saying, I don't think that there's any urgency for the Nationals to pull this and make this happen, because they've got 2.5 more years of team control for Juan Soto. But how long do you let this situation go on with as potentially toxic as it is? I mean, that's a team that's really struggling this year anyway, but how long do you let this hang over this franchise?
Yeah, the only thing that's maybe changed my mind, and it hasn't, I still think like the price for Soto, even if you attach a Patrick Corbin to eat up some money, and Mike Rizzo has come out and said, like, they're not going to do that. They're not going to change a package just so somebody else can take Patrick Corbin's contract. I don't know if I entirely believe him, because he's also said in the past that Juan Soto is not going to get traded, and now he's openly on the market. But I think the one thing that may have changed my mind at least a little bit about why Juan Soto could be traded is the news that the Washington Nationals are up for sale. I mean, the ownership group there in DC seems like they're trying to sell the team this offseason. And in my mind, if I was an owner, I would want a big superstar on my team, somebody who I could have in big flashing lights to carry my franchise moving forward. But it sounds like if they are going to maybe move Soto, maybe that ownership change is a reason why you do it. So the new owners can come in, fresh slate, build something up entirely, maybe go out and sign a superstar in a year or two, but a superstar of their choosing, not somebody that was handed to them. I don't know if that is enough to sway me. I think there's still a lot of smoke coming out of all directions. Now we're hearing, I think Buster Olney tweeted this earlier, a lot of executives think like the Padres are the most likely team to acquire him. Earlier in this week, Mark Feinstein did a story. It seemed like the Dodgers had the most pieces to do it. I still think this is a lot of posturing by the industry, just trying to think like who could pull this off. And there's a difference between could and will. And right. I know AJ Preller with the Padres is a guy who loves to take big swings, and God bless him for it. He's always trying to make that team in San Diego better. By doing that, the Dodgers and Nationals were paired up last year in a major trade, one that sent Max Scherzer and Trey Turner to LA for Josiah Gray, Keibert Ruiz, and some other pieces. So we know those front offices have negotiated before. I still think the price is way too high. And a big reason why we haven't seen many trades, Benintendi's really been hit to this point, was I think, the draft was later than normal. A lot of front offices take up a lot of their time going into the draft. And I think if you think like, they're different departments, they are in some respects, but GMs like to be involved in the draft. They want to be in that room to find out the future of their franchise. So that took up a lot of space. And then there was the news that, the deadline for deciding an international draft versus the qualifying offer, those two things being tied, that was coming up as well. And so some teams had to make a decision that, hey, do we want to trade this guy who we could give the qualifying offer to? And if he doesn't sign, then we get a draft pick out of it. that changes the trade calculus. Now, we know that's still around now. They didn't agree to an international draft. So the qualifying offer is still around. That could affect things. That doesn't affect Soto. Soto still has 2.5 years of control. He's not getting a qualifying offer. I still tip on the side of like, that would be way too big of a blockbuster deal to pull off. It might be the biggest of our lifetimes.
Yeah.
To be honest, Tyler. Like, I think that's kind of crazy, but
it
could happen.
It's a big trade possibility when people can't even think of a baseball trade to compare it to, because you hear everybody talk about, well, it's going to be a Herschel Walker type deal or a Wayne Gretzky type deal. So you have to go outside of the sport in order to draw in comps for it. Is there anybody else who you feel like could potentially be a shock trade piece? We know the teams have called and at least inquired about what it would take to acquire Shohei Ohtani from the Angels. He potentially is somebody who is out there and could be moved. Is Wilson Contreras going to end up somewhere? Is there anybody who stands out that you think, I got a feeling this dude might be on the move?
Well, I mean, if that were to happen, that would be crazy. And I understand it to some degree, and the Angels have not competed in the way they would have hoped this year. Mike Trout now has like a back issue.
Yeah.
And if you're Shohei Ohtani, you're probably looking at like, I have free agency in a year and a half. I'm probably leaving here and trying to find a contender. So if you're the Angels, you're like, well, he's never going to be more valuable than he is right now to us in the trade. But that just doesn't have as much smoke, because I think that kind of not came out of nowhere, but it doesn't have the lead up that a Soto trade does. So if that were to happen, I would be completely flabbergasted. Like that would be insane. You mentioned Wilson Contreras. I think that's probably going to happen. It seems like everybody involved knows he's going elsewhere. Where that's going to be, whether it's the Mets, where it's somebody else, we'll have to see. But when he gets a big ovation in his final game at Wrigley, what people assume is his final game at Wrigley, and even he acknowledges that.
Yeah,
he's probably got at least 1 foot out the door, if not a foot and a half. One I'm going to be looking at is Trey Mancini.
Okay.
Not a huge name, not a superstar, but a good player, and a player who has been the face of the Baltimore Orioles the last few years. I wouldn't say he is necessarily now. Maybe he is. I mean, obviously he's the veteran presence on that team, but Adley Rutschman is one of the guys carrying that team now, and they're hovering close to 500. I said this a couple weeks ago, like maybe they have something in them to make a playoff push. But they're also on the outside looking in, like they're not looking likely to make the playoffs right now. I believe Trey Mancini is a free agent this offseason. Do they explore trading him just to get some sort of return out of him? Or do you look at an extension? Like that, I think that's fascinating. I think Brandon Hyde, their manager, said today, like, Trey Mancini is a guy I want to manage for the next 10 years. Who could blame him? Like, that guy has just been a model citizen for that organization, coming back from cancer, being a comeback player of the year, being as good as he is as a first base bat, where he's somebody people want to go out and get. Like, I don't know. I'm fascinated to see how that trade dynamic works when you're balancing both what the major league team is now, what it's trying to be, and just the emotions of a star player.
Okay, so I want to spin this into a question that is more directly pertinent to our interests, which is, of course, the minor league systems and what organizations have or are building. You mentioned a couple who I think would fit in this conversation very well, but who right now do you see as sort of being in the sweet spot of being able to make a move, whether it's a team that has an asset that needs to be able to rebuild something? I mean, the Angels have been a bad franchise for a while, and the Angels right now have a minor league system that is lean. Are the Angels the best positioned team to overhaul things by making one big deal? I don't know if they're going to, but are they there? On the flip side of that, you look at an organization like the Dodgers or the Padres, as you mentioned, or even the Cardinals, who were also mentioned in the Juan Soto deal, who right now is a contending team that has enough pieces to be able to make big swings. So kind of those two steps, who has the most to gain from making a deal and getting pieces back in return, and who has the most pieces to be able to move?
Yeah, well, I'll take the first part first, as one does. You mentioned the Angels there. Again, Ohtani, I think, is really the only piece that could.
Yeah,
really
they're not
turn
dealing
around
Mike Trout.
System.
Right.
I missed it. What'd you say?
I said they're not dealing Mike Trout. So yeah, Ohtani is kind of the guy that we look at. Yeah.
Right. So I don't think they're in a place right now, just because of what the dynamic has always been in Anaheim in terms of trying to win now, going out and signing Anthony Rendon, trying to bring in other pieces, going after Garrett Cole a couple of years ago. I don't think they're really in a place where they think about rebuilding so much. But to go back to the Juan Soto conversation, you look at what the Nats system is now, and I know they went out and sold at last year's deadline and built up a system that was pretty down. But Gray is graduated. Ruiz has graduated. Those guys graduated pretty quick. You look at who's left right now. I mean, their top prospect is Cade Cavalli, who hasn't exactly had the year we would have hoped this year at AAA. He's kind of been in fits and starts in terms of proving his command after leading minor league baseball in strikeouts last year. Brady House has regressed after he was their first-round pick last year, isn't showing the power that people would have hoped. Cole Henry has injury problems again. So I love their draft pick of Elijah Green. I think he's their top prospect by far right now. But when you look at, is the Nats system really built right now for a rebuild? I would say no. It's not deep enough, and it doesn't have that star power. Trading a Soto, whether you want to go and call it a Herschel Walker deal, Wayne Gretzky deal, whatever, that is a farm system building trade. That brings in a lot of pieces that makes the system look so much better. I'm not going to say it's a top 10 system. Well, let's see what kind of trades they get. Some of the rumors with the Padres, let's say, bring in Mackenzie Gore and CJ Abrams, who make the organization better. But again, graduated prospects, they don't affect the farm system necessarily. You should probably be less worried about that than I am as a fan out there. Like, farm system rankings don't really matter. If you have young prospects who are the age, or young players who are the age of prospects but have graduated from prospectum, they count just as much towards your future. But yeah, I think the Nats are best set up to really make that jump in terms of a farm system if they pull the trigger on a Soto deal. Taking your second question, we mentioned the Padres, we mentioned the Dodgers. Those teams have decent depth. I think the Dodgers are deeper than the Padres, but they have the top level talent as well. If you're the Dodgers, you can give up Diego Cartaya, Bobby Miller, Andy Pajes, Miguel Vargas, and keep on chugging. Like, all of those guys, and keep on chugging. Maybe if you're the Nationals, you also ask for a Gavin Lux or something like that. Still doesn't really hurt the Dodgers. They get better with Juan Soto. The other one I'm watching out for is the St. Louis Cardinals. You look at who they have for prospects.
Yeah.
Trading a Jordan Walker is going to carry a lot of weight in the trade. He is, I think we have him at number 7 right now, maybe number 6 in our top 100. He's definitely a top 10 prospect across the board. He's a prospect a lot of organizations would love to have. And he's going to be the headliner, but you're going to need to add other pieces, and they have that as well. Mason Wynn is having a breakout season at the plate. We've seen what he can do defensively. Gordon Graceffo is having a major breakout season this year. Matthew Liberatore, I have my issues with, but he's still young. Dylan Carlson is somebody at the major league level who, if you're trading for Soto, becomes expendable, but could be very useful to the Washington Nationals and become their future outfielder. The Cardinals have the pieces. Now, if they were to trade all those guys away, the roster and the minor league system becomes pretty decimated. But that's not an issue because you have Juan Soto now for 2.5 years and he's only 23. So I think those 3 are the ones I kind of zero in on of like teams that could really pull this off, especially now that we know the Yankees are probably off the board considering they got Benintendi.
So much stuff to keep an eye on as we get closer and closer to the trade deadline, which by the time we talk to you next, it will already be in our past. So we will break down everything that happens at the deadline, which prospects move where and all that. And it's always a hectic and wild few days, but some exciting stuff coming up for baseball talents across the country here over the next 4 or 5 days. Josh Jackson stops by to say hello for Ghost of the Minors, and then we're back to wrap this thing up on the other side.
This episode is brought to you by Indeed. Stop waiting around for the perfect candidate. Instead, use Indeed sponsored jobs to find the right people with the right skills fast. It's a simple way to make sure your listing is the first candidates see. According to Indeed data, sponsored jobs have 4 times more applicants than non-sponsored jobs. So go build your dream team today with Indeed. Get a $75 sponsored job credit at Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply.
We interrupt
interrupt this podcast to bring you another thrilling edition of Ghosts of the Miners. Now, here's your correspondent and host, Joshua Jackson.
Welcome back to Ghosts of the Miners, in which all of you out there in Radio Land must identify the legitimate historical ball club hiding amidst the fraudulent pair. One was as real as the air we breathe. The others have a discernible odor of fiction. In the last segment, I asked you which of the following minor league baseball teams did at one time exist. A, the Concord Self-Reliance. B, the Lubbock Loners. C, the Corning Independents. The correct answer is C, the Corning Independents, who went their own way in the Pony League of 1953. In the history books, Corning's Pony League team was the Corning A's, named for their parent club Philadelphia A's, for the 1951 and 1952 seasons, and upon getting rid of that major league affiliation, rebranded as the Independents. The history books aren't wrong, but they may not be telling the whole story either. Corning, New York, known as the Crystal City and home of the Corning Museum of Glass, had already fielded a litany of sports teams known as the Independents going back decades, including an amateur baseball squad in the 1920s. The Corning Independent was a short-lived but influential Steuben County newspaper in the late 19th century, which may have sponsored a team and kicked off a trend. But whatever the backstory, when the Corning Club in the Pony League tried it out from under an affiliation with the A's but vowed to stay on the circuit in November of '52, the Independents moniker was there waiting. Unfortunately, though, those Independents of '53 could have used a little help. They stood alone, all right, way down in 8th place in an 8-team league. And they weren't just losing on the field. In early July, even though they'd established a working agreement with Cleveland, attendance at Independence games was down 5,000 fans from 52, when the Philadelphia organization had lost $18,000 on the team. Although they warned the league they may have to drop out by July 15, Corning showed a little grit as the Independents tapped into some self-resolve. They finished the season 40-85, but hey, they finished the season. The team's rebranding as the Independents was a bold declaration, but it seems they did not have the constitution for the endeavor. In '54, they established an affiliation with Boston and won the whole thing as the Corning Red Sox, making the playoffs for the first of 4 straight seasons. And that's how the Independents partnered up. Now, on to the question for next time. Which of these teams overloaded on lore in the minors of yesteryear? A, the Golden Shores Mermen. B, the Rainbow River Jackalopes. C, the Magic Valley Cowboys. Want to know the answer? Clap your heels and believe. Or tune into the next Ghosts of a Miner. But for now, you'll have to excuse me. My producer Ben Hill is taking himself out to lunch, and I think I can spear his pickle.
Final segment of this week's episode of the show before the show. MILB.TV is where you can catch all the top talent in minor league baseball and watch games from coast to coast. Sam, what are you watching on MILB TV coming up?
Yeah, we're kind of in hog watch season, which is something I learned last weekend, I should say, when I was at the Durham Bulls game in Durham, and Curtis Meade was pulled mid-game. Didn't seem to be injured. It wasn't in the middle of an at-bat or anything or whatever, and so I tweeted that, and then all of a sudden everybody's like, oh, the Rays are pulling off a blockbuster. They're trading Curtis Meade, which is not what happened. He ended up having an arm issue that was not evident to anybody watching, but there was a reason for that. So a lot of people are on the edge of their seats right now, basically just watching prospects to see, are you coming out of the game, and for what are you immediately getting on a flight? So, picking up from what I said last segment, I would recommend watching Springfield, AA Springfield this weekend. Any chance you get, they're playing Frisco. So there is a matchup against Jack Leiter this weekend, but Jordan Walker and Mason Wynn. So those are 3 futures gamers you can watch in one game, which is super exciting in itself. Jordan Walker, Mason Wynn, and Jack Leiter this weekend. That should be really fun. But also, if you're a team or a fan of a team that might be swinging a big deal, wink, wink, Washington, and you want to see what Jordan Walker and Mason Wynn are all about, this is a chance to do that as well. And maybe you'll be watching the game and you'll hear that Jordan Walker was pulled mid-game. I hate to throw that out there because I'm sure he's on the edge of his seat finding out if the Cardinals are going to trade him as well. And that's a difficult place to be in as a young person and a prospect. But still, like, tune into these games just to see what these guys are all about. They are very talented. Even if you're just a Cardinals fan and wants to check in on these guys, see how they're coming along at the AA level, 2 stops away from the majors. Hey, even if the Cardinals don't pull off a blockbuster trade, it might be because they like these guys a lot and they are a big part of the future. So keep an eye on that AA Springfield team over the weekend when they are at home against Frisco. Tyler, what do you got your eye on?
Well, you mentioned the Nationals. Nats fans need something to feel good about, and I'm going to give you something to feel good about. Cade Cavalli has been very, very good as of late. Cavalli, the number 45 overall prospect in baseball, and a guy who is very much a friend of the show, the top prospect in the Nationals organization. He's been really, really good his last few times out. He has not allowed an earned run since June 29th. Now, granted, he had one short start in July, but so far through the month of July, 15 2/3 innings, 7 hits, 1 run, not earned, 16 strikeouts, and 3 walks. His ERA for the month, obviously, is 0. He has dropped his season-long ERA from 5.07 to 4.03. He, as of right now, it looks as though he will be on the hill coming up next Wednesday, as he got his most recent start this past Wednesday. We're recording this on Thursday, and he got it on the 27th of July. So coming up next Wednesday, August 3rd, he and his team will be on the road at Columbus, and you can catch that game at MILB.TV. So that'll do it. Stay hydrated. Take some time to walk away from the screens when you're following trade deadline news. It can be a lot. So, give yourself room to breathe. It's an exciting and somewhat terrifying time of year if you're a crazy baseball fan. So, keep all those things in mind. Coming up August 2nd. For Sam Dykstra, I'm Tyler Mond. Thanks for tuning in for another week of the show before the show, and we'll catch you next week.